Yo, it's your boy Hopefully, and today, this is what if Spider-Man had Sasuke'S powers. With that being said, let's get into it.
Winter time, all the time, ooh.
Yeah, okay.
Disrespectful and
Okay.
Winter one hell of a kid. Smoking gas, drinking
Winter.
What you doing out of dick? Slick talker since a jet.
Wintertime, all the time, ooh, yeah. Look at the way that I move, swag. Disrespectful and I'm rude, okay. I had cocaine in the school. Winter one hell of a kid. I am. Smoking gas, jogging mid. I'm lit. What you doing out in dick? I swear. Slick talker since a jet. Finesse. I know that this what they want. Facts. Run up some money, I'm gone. I'm out. I'm the truth like Ron. Killing. Sipping lean and saying Juan. I did it. I taught myself to finesse. For real. I taught myself how to judge. For real. Being broke was no fun. No way. Wintertime, all the time, ooh. Wintertime, all the time, ooh.
So in this timeline, Orochimaru actually faked his death while he became immortal. So pretty much Orochimaru has been living in his underground lair and hiding. Orochimaru used to be an employee at Oscorp, and there he stole spiders and tech there. Later on, after he got fired for stealing such things, he pretty much went back into hiding, and that's how he was beginning to recreate Sasuke's blood with the technology he stole from Osborn, and pretty much, stealing the idea with the whole spider and all. And over the 1,000 years that Orochimaru has been immortal, they've pretty much outlawed, jutsu teaching. As for, they felt like it was the reason for all the wars that were happening over the years. So pretty much Orochimaru was making synthetic abilities that pretty much were matching Sasuke's. It finally became time for Orochimaru to test out his new experiment. The opportunity came for Orochimaru to do so when he found out about this teenager who had one of his guardians die and the other one fall into a depression that left them unable to pretty much raise the kid. The teenager's name was Peter Parker, as Orochimaru would do his old jutsu of pretty much stealing somebody's face, and he would also steal their ID and necessary things to pretty much adopt the kid. Everything would go as normal for Peter Parker until he suddenly fell asleep after drinking some water. We would time skip weeks later after the experiment was fully done and conducted. Peter would pretty much wake up in his bed after he's pretty much like hearing people outside of his room pretty much talking about said situation he's in. As he would pretty much go to the door to hear what they're talking about, we hear Orochimaru talking to the Sinister Six as he does lead them in this timeline. Peter was pretty mad once he heard about the experimentation on his body and in the way he got multiple abilities. As Orochimaru would be talking about his hate manipulation, his lightning manipulation, and the Rinnegan, swinging, crawling, and spider-like senses. Peter would get angry not realizing that his arm would catch flames, as he would burn down a big portion of the building. This would alert the Sinister Six. Orochimaru would pretty much tell Rhino and the Vulture to go attack Peter, as Peter would pretty much begin to run. He would get faster and faster with his escape as the lightning would speed him up. With Peter's uncontrollable speed, he would be going headfirst into a brick wall, as Peter would try to put his foot on it, as he would begin to stick. Peter would learn of his new ability to stick, but he couldn't control it due to him being in distress. The Vulture would try to grab Peter's leg, as he would begin to fly, knocking Peter building to building, trying to incapacitate him. Peter would try to use his heat upside down as he's pretty much being dragged. Peter would be able to successfully set Vulture's suit on fire, making Vulture drop him mid-air. Peter, scared for his life as he's falling, he would try to put his hand out, hoping to even just grab on anything that could help him up, as he would pretty much accidentally use his webs, as he would actually swing up on a lower building and actually land. Peter happy that he did that, but not really knowing how. Rhino would come around the corner and pretty much pick up a piece of the street and throw it at Spider-Man with his pure strength. Peter would punch it, not being able to sense it with his spider senses in time, as Peter would chuckle realizing how strong he actually is, as the Vulture would pretty much fly and try to tackle Peter, as Peter would try to grab on like a stop sign. It would pretty much like rip out of the ground. Peter would try to attack the vulture with his metal, taking off the vulture's left wing, making the vulture torpedo crash into the ground. As Rhino would jump over the building that Peter is on the other side of, not realizing that the vulture was already taken out. Peter would see the Rhino running towards him. He would try to lead him into a brick wall as he jumped over him. Once he did make contact, once he did jump over him, he would accidentally electrocute Rhino, as he would finally realize what his weakness is: lightning. As he would pretty much use it multiple times during their fight. Peter abused his upper hand with this ability, just frying him whenever he would make a stupid decision. That is what ultimately led Peter to actually win this fight, as Peter would run off, trying to think of any way back to Aunt May's house. Nick Fury watching in his invisible shield aircraft, as he had just watched Peter fight Rhino. As he would decide to land his shield aircraft, landing right in front of Peter as he's pretty much running in the street, as he would pretty much inform Peter about his hero attributes during a stressful time. Nick Fury would take in Peter, and Peter would take the test to be a part of a new show team funded by the Avengers. There he would meet Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Nova, and Mystique. Over the summer break training that the team had, the Green Goblin would become a recurring villain for Spider-Man and his team. The Green Goblin would become closer and closer to Spider-Man's identity over time. He would get sicker and sicker over time too, due to the experiments put on his body that has caused him to decay. Peter would occasionally visit the Osborns, as he is pretty good friends with Harry. There, Harry would tell him that his father was going to get out of the hospital soon. Peter would obviously be happy for his friend. Over time, with the Green Goblin being out, they would finally meet again, having their final fight. As this time, the Green Goblin would actually go haywire with the experiments that he put into his body. So he's actually much more powerful. So when he did actually attack the team, he actually incapacitated most of them, and just left Spider-Man and himself to fight. Spider-Man, already angry that his team has been knocked out so quickly into the fight, he would pretty much go full force, and the Green Goblin wouldn't hold back either. They would both be throwing punches, throwing kicks, flipping, flying all over the place. The building that they're fighting in will finally collapse, as it only leaves two walls, one behind Spider-Man and the other one behind Green Goblin. As Green Goblin will finally summon his glider, and it will pretty much track Spider-Man wherever he went. As Spider-Man would pretty much run towards the Green Goblin and pretty much, jump up the wall and flip up. Spider-Man trying to perform a new technique, as he was way too fast for the glider. The glider would actually pierce and impale the Green Goblin, as he would say that he was sorry that the Green Goblin took over once again. The Green Goblin would slowly die. Peter, in shame and sadness, would pretty much try to do everything in his power to try to help his team. Alright, so that's where I'm gonna leave this what if off. With that being said, I'm Audi 9000.